Zanil had always been the dependable one in her family. Growing up in Durban, she carried herself with quiet strength. As the firstborn, she learned early that her dreams had to wait. While other girls her age were out enjoying their youth, Zanil was the one making sacrifices, helping with chores, tutoring neighbors' kids for a little extra money, and putting her own wants aside so her younger sister, Nambula, could have more. It wasn't bitterness that drove her, but love and responsibility. She believed that if she worked hard enough, her turn would come. One late night, unable to sleep, she got up to fetch a glass of water. On her way back, she heard soft voices coming from her parents' room. At first, she didn't mean to listen, but something in her father's tone made her pause at the doorway. "We must give Nambula everything," her mother whispered. "The university in Johannesburg is perfect for her. She deserves full tuition, no matter the cost." Zanil froze. A sharp ache tightened in her chest as she pressed her ear closer. Then came her father's reply, the words that cut deeper than any knife. "As for Zanil," he sighed, "she's strong. She'll figure her life out. She's not our priority." Her heart sank. All those late nights of studying, all the time she had given up her own chances for the sake of her family, it suddenly felt invisible. In the silence of the hallway, Zanil realized the truth. In her parents' eyes, she had never been the chosen one. That night, Zanil lay on her bed staring at the ceiling, her hands clenched into fists. The words she had overheard replayed over and over in her mind, sharper with each repetition. Her parents weren't just neglecting her dreams, they were choosing her sister over her, openly and without guilt. A hot wave of betrayal swept through her. She wanted to scream, to run into their room and demand to be seen, but something inside her held back. She had always been the quiet, strong one. Her strength was her shield, and tonight it wouldn't fail her. Her mind drifted back to the years she had given everything. Late nights hunched over textbooks while her friends went out laughing. Early mornings delivering tutoring lessons before school, collecting every cent to help with bills. She remembered turning down scholarships and opportunities she had earned because she knew her family needed her. Every sacrifice had been made quietly, without complaint, with the hope that one day it would matter. And yet, here she was invisible. She remembered the countless times Nambula had been praised for things that Zanil had done twice as well. The birthday parties, the small achievements, the school performances, all celebrated for Nambula, while Zanil's efforts faded into the background. She had been the helper, the fixer, the girl who made life easier for everyone else. And now she realized she had been treated as less than, not because she deserved it, but because her parents had already chosen who they wanted to shine. A fire lit inside her, quiet at first, then growing until it burned in every corner of her chest. Zanil wiped away the tears she had let fall silently and whispered to herself, "No more. I will not beg for their approval. I will not wait for them to notice me. I will build my own path, and they will see me when I decide they should." For the first time in years, she felt a sense of freedom, raw and terrifying and beautiful. The hurt was still there, but it had sharpened into resolve. She promised herself that she would stop asking for permission to live her life. From that night on, her dreams would no longer be secondary. They would be hers, fully and unapologetically. Zanil closed her eyes, letting the silence of the night hold her, and felt something she hadn't felt in a long time: control over her own destiny. The betrayal had hurt, but it had also awakened her, and she knew, deep in her bones, that this was just the beginning. The next morning, Zanil sat at the breakfast table, trying to act normal. Her parents chatted animatedly, their voices full of pride as they discussed Nambula's upcoming university plan. Every word was a reminder of the night before. They laughed about the expensive courses and the scholarship Nambula had received, completely ignoring the quiet figure across the table. Zanil's toast went untouched, her cereal cold, but she stayed seated, forcing herself to sip slowly and not let the hurt show. Nambula, clearly enjoying the attention, leaned back in her chair with a smug grin. "Don't worry, sis," she said, her voice dripping with mock sympathy. "Some people are born to shine, others to serve." Zanil froze for a moment, feeling the sting of the words. She wanted to reply, to argue, maybe even to cry out her frustration. But instead she smiled, a small, tight-lipped smile that didn't reach her eyes. Inside, though, the fire was roaring. That smirk from Nambula, the laughter of her parents, the way they made it all look so easy, it wasn't going to break her. She pushed her chair back slightly and met her sister's gaze, holding it steady, letting her parents' praise wash over them without touching her. Every chuckle, every boastful comment, only fueled her determination. She remembered the late nights she had spent studying, the jobs she had taken to help at home, the dreams she had quietly shelved. All of it had been for her own growth, even if her parents couldn't see it. Zanil took a slow breath and let the silence fill the space around her. The mask of strength she wore felt heavier than ever, but it was also hers to control. She would not show weakness here. She would not beg for acknowledgement. The world might not see her yet, but she knew what she was capable of. Nomvula's laughter faded slightly as she realized her sister wasn't reacting. Zanil's calmness was a silent challenge, a reminder that she wasn't invisible, not really. She might be forced to sit in the shadows for now, but the fire burning inside her would not be quenched by insults or neglect. By the time breakfast ended, Zanil had made an unspoken promise to herself. She would carry this fire into every corner of her. Her parents could ignore her sister could mock her, but nothing could stop her from claiming her own path. That day, she walked away from the table with her head held high, every step measured, every breath a reminder that strength often comes quietly, and patience is a weapon no one can see. Her fire was hers alone, and she would let it blaze on her terms. Zanil had learned one thing very clearly. If she wanted to change her life, she couldn't wait for anyone's approval. Her parents had made their choice, and Nomvula had theirs. But Zanil had a plan, quiet, steady, and all her own. She spent hours at night searching for scholarships abroad, filling out forms and writing essays she hoped would show the world what her parents refused to see. Each application was a small act of rebellion, a declaration that she wouldn't be invisible forever. During the day, she hustled harder than ever. She tutored younger children in math and science, helping them understand lessons their schools didn't always teach. After school, she cleaned houses for neighbors, scrubbing floors and dusting shelves while dreaming of lecture halls far away. On weekends, she set up a small stall at Durban's busy markets, selling handmade jewelry she crafted late at night under the dim glow of a lamp. Every bead threaded, every bracelet tied, every coin earned went into her future fund, a little stash that represented hope, ambition, and freedom. It wasn't easy. Her hands ached, her back ached, and sometimes her spirit felt fragile. But the more she worked, the more people around her began to notice. The children she tutored spoke of her patience and care, neighbors admired her work ethic, and even strangers at the market complimented her jewelry. They didn't know her story, but they could see the determination shining through every small thing she did. At home, however, the praise she earned outside never reached her parents. They still belittled her, comparing her to Nomvula as if nothing she achieved mattered. "Why do you waste your time with those silly projects?" her mother would ask, or her father would sigh. "You should focus on more practical things, like your sister." Each insult could have crushed her, but Zanil had built walls stronger than words. Their dismissals didn't diminish her fire, they fed it. She often stayed up late into the night, counting every coin, revising scholarship essays, and dreaming of the life she knew she deserved. It was lonely, exhausting, and sometimes painful, but she had made a vow she couldn't break. Zanil was building her own path, brick by brick, sweat by sweat, with hands that worked tirelessly and a heart that refused to surrender. In a city where everyone else seemed to take opportunities for granted, Zanil was creating hers from nothing. And though her parents remained blind to her brilliance, the world outside was starting to notice. Every step she took, every effort she made, was leading her closer to the life she had promised herself. She didn't need their approval anymore. She was busy building a future that no one could ignore. Weeks of late nights, countless essays, and endless applications finally paid off one quiet afternoon. Zanil was sitting at her tiny desk, counting the last few coins she had earned from tutoring, when the ping of her email made her heart leap. She hesitated, half afraid it was another rejection. Slowly, she opened it, and there it was. A full scholarship to study in Nairobi, Kenya. Every expense covered. Every dream she had ever whispered to herself now seemed possible. She read the email again and again, unable to believe it. Nairobi. A chance to study without limits, to grow, to finally step out of the shadow her family had cast over her. Her hands shook as she sat back, letting the reality sink in. After months of struggle, of cleaning houses, tutoring, and selling jewelry at the markets, it felt like the universe had finally recognized her efforts. Zanil packed quietly that evening, careful not to draw attention. She folded her few belongings neatly, each item a reminder of the life she was leaving behind, but also a token of the life she was going to build. She left only a short note on her bed, simple and honest. "I'm going to make my dreams happen. Thank you for the lessons, even if they were hard." The next morning, her parents found the note and immediately assumed the worst. "She's running away," her mother said, worry and irritation tangled in her voice. "She can't handle failure," her father added, shaking his head. Nomvula, on the other hand, smirked and laughed, throwing in a mocking, "Good luck surviving out there, sis." As if Zanil's ambitions were childish whim. Zanil ignored them. She had learned long ago that their words could not define her. Every look, every insult, every underestimation had only strengthened her resolve. The taxi took her to the airport, and as she walked through the terminal, a mix of nerves and excitement surged through her. She held her ticket tightly, feeling its weight not as paper, but as a symbol of everything she had worked for. As she stepped onto the plane, she looked out the window at Durban one last time. The city had shaped her, challenged her, and tested her limits. But now, it was time to leave the doubts behind. Determination burned in her chest, steady and fierce. Whatever awaited her in Nairobi, she would meet it head-on. For the first time, Zanille wasn't following someone else's path. She was creating her own, and nothing could stop her. Her journey had truly begun. Nairobi was a world away from Durban, but Zanille felt alive in a way she never had before. The city pulsed with energy, and for the first time, she felt like she belonged somewhere that didn't judge her before seeing her worth. Her scholarship covered tuition, but she still worked part-time to support herself. She tutored local children, delivered packages, and sometimes even helped at her university library. Every hour spent working reminded her that nothing worth having came for free. Her studies became an obsession. Zanille absorbed everything she could, diving into technology, education methods, and entrepreneurship. She asked questions that made professors pause, always pushing herself to think bigger and to understand deeper. While others were content to coast through, she stayed late in labs, experimenting with ideas that could solve real problems for children who didn't have the same opportunities she was finally getting. Slowly, her network grew. Mentors noticed her curiosity, her determination, and the unusual combination of intelligence and grit. They offered guidance, introduced her to investors, and challenged her to dream even bigger. It was during one of these mentorship sessions that the idea hit her, an education tech platform that could bring online learning to children in rural areas where schools lacked resources and teachers were stretched thin. She sketched out her vision late into the night, imagining a world where geography wouldn't limit a child's potential. With a small team of like-minded students and volunteers, Zanille co-founded the startup. They worked out of a tiny office, laptops open, cables tangled, brainstorming every day and testing their ideas on real community. Her weekends were spent traveling to rural villages, teaching children and learning what tools they needed most. Every success, no matter how small, a child logging in for the first time, a teacher praising the platform, an investor showing interest, felt like proof that she was finally making a difference. Investors began to notice her brilliance. Emails and calls came from companies wanting to support or fund the project. Zanille listened carefully, always keeping the mission at the center of everything she did. Fame wasn't her goal, impact was. But she could feel the momentum building, the way people started to see her not as a girl from Durban who had been overlooked, but as a force of change in her own right. For the first time, Zanille realized that the struggles, the late nights, the sacrifices, they had not broken her. They had prepared her. And as her startup grew, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Power over her own destiny, a freedom that came from creating something meaningful with her own hand. She had risen from the shadows, and now, the world was finally starting to see her light. Back in Durban, life for Nambula was nothing like she had imagined. Her parents had paid for a prestigious university in Johannesburg, but money couldn't buy discipline, focus, or talent she hadn't earned. She arrived with confidence, flaunting her new wardrobe and the latest gadgets, assuming success would come easily. But lectures felt long and confusing, assignments piled up, and exams quickly revealed her lack of preparation. No one had taught her that effort mattered more than privilege. Nambula tried to escape the frustration with parties and nights out, spending freely on drinks, clothes, and weekends away. Her parents continued to provide, thinking their investment would automatically guarantee results. But the money ran out faster than expected, and she began dipping into loans and credit cards, ignoring the warnings until the bills stacked up. Friends noticed, classmates whispered, and slowly, the glamorous image she had worked to maintain began to crumble. Zanille's parents, once proud of their golden child, started to feel the strain. Their finances sank under the weight of Nambula's reckless spending, and bills they had assumed would be manageable became urgent concern. The house that had once felt secure now carried tension and worry. They whispered in corners, voices tight with worry and shame, finally realizing the consequences of their favoritism. "I should have pushed her to work harder," her father muttered one evening, a note of guilt in his voice. Her mother nodded silently, biting her lip. They had always ignored Zanille, believing she would be fine on her own, never seeing how much she had sacrificed or how capable she truly was. Now, watching Nambula struggle, they began to wonder if they had chosen wrong. Nambula, meanwhile, had no idea the panic and regret simmering at home. She laughed and posted photos on social media, pretending everything was perfect, oblivious to the mounting debt and the family's quiet despair. But deep down, she felt the cracks forming, the pressure building as grades dropped and opportunities slipped through her fingers. In contrast, Zanille's absence was a silent reminder of what they had overlooked. While Nambula floundered, Zanille was quietly building a future full of promise and possibility. And though her parents had yet to admit it openly, the seeds of regret were taking root. The home that once celebrated appearances over effort was slowly learning a painful lesson. Talent, resilience, and dedication cannot be bought. And as Nomvula struggled, the echoes of what they had ignored in Zenil grew louder, hinting at a reckoning that no one could escape. Zenil's startup had grown faster than anyone could have imagined. What had started as a small project from a tiny office in Nairobi was now reaching thousands of children across Africa. Her education tech platform had earned international recognition, winning awards for innovation, impact, and social change. Investors were calling with offers, partners were lining up, and media outlets wanted to tell her story. Every accolade was a quiet victory, proof that all her late nights, sacrifices, and struggles had been worth it. Her life had changed in ways she had once only dreamed about. Zenil traveled across the continent as a keynote speaker, sharing her journey at conferences and universities. She spoke about resilience, determination, and the power of education. Audiences hung on her every word, inspired not just by her achievements, but by the honesty and passion she carried in every story. People saw her as a role model, a young woman who had turned adversity into opportunity, and every speech reinforced her belief in herself. Meanwhile, her startup's valuations skyrocketed into the tens of millions of dollars. Investors trusted her vision because she had proven time and again that she could turn ideas into results. She hired teams, built new programs, and expanded her reach, but she never lost the personal touch that had made her company successful in the first place. She still visited schools, checked in on students, and mentored young people, remembering that every number on a balance sheet represented real lives being changed. Then came the invitation she had waited for quietly but never expected so soon. She was being honored with a national award and invited back to Durban by the President of South Africa. The irony was not lost on her. The city that had overlooked her, the parents who had dismissed her, and the sister who had mocked her. Now, she was returning as one of the country's youngest and most celebrated innovators. As she prepared for the trip, Zenil felt a mix of excitement and calm determination. This wasn't about revenge or proving her family wrong. It was about celebrating the life she had built with her own hand. Every challenge she had faced, every late night, every small job and setback, had led her to this moment. Flying back to Durban, she thought about how far she had come, from the girl who had overheard her parents say she wasn't their priority, to the woman who had built a company impacting thousands. The streets she had once walked feeling invisible now seemed smaller, almost insignificant compared to the future she had created. The world was watching, and this time, there was no ignoring her. Zenil had risen, and nothing would ever keep her in the shadows again. The day of the award ceremony felt surreal. The hall was packed with dignitaries, entrepreneurs, educators, and journalists, all buzzing with excitement. Zenil walked onto the stage with quiet confidence, her name announced to applause and camera flashes. Every step she took was steady, measured, and full of the resolve she had carried for years. This was the moment her hard work, sacrifices, and determination had been building toward. In the audience, her parents and Nomvula sat frozen, a mixture of shock, confusion, and guilt on their faces. They watched as the girl they had dismissed, ignored, and even belittled now stood in front of the nation, being celebrated for her brilliance and impact. The pride they had assumed Nomvula would earn now belonged entirely to Zenil. Every word spoken by the announcer, every clap, every flash of a camera was a reminder of what they had overlooked for so long. Journalists crowded around after the ceremony, eager to capture the story behind this rising star. Microphones were thrust forward, cameras zoomed in, and questions flew fast and relentless. They wanted to know what had inspired her, what had driven her to succeed against such odds, and how she had built a company that was changing lives across the continent. Zenil answered calmly, with the same quiet strength that had carried her through every challenge. "The pain of being overlooked became my biggest strength," she said simply. The room went silent for a moment, the words settling over everyone like a powerful truth. She didn't point fingers, she didn't blame anyone. She just spoke the truth of her journey. Her statement wasn't bitter, it was honest. It was a declaration that the obstacles she had faced, the neglect and doubt she had endured, had forged the fire that brought her here. Nomvula looked away, unable to meet her sister's calm, commanding gaze. Her smug confidence had evaporated, replaced with shame and disbelief. For the first time, she understood that talent, resilience, and dedication could not be replaced by money or favoritism. Her parents exchanged glances, whispers passing between them. Regret was etched into their faces, unspoken but obvious. They had been given a chance to support the one child who truly deserved it, and they had ignored it. Now they were forced to witness her success from the sideline, powerless to change what had already been done. As Zenil accepted her award, she scanned the room briefly, her eyes meeting her family's for a fleeting moment. There was no anger, no gloating, only quiet triumph. She had become everything she had worked for, on her own terms, and nothing in the past could diminish that. For everyone watching, it was a lesson in perseverance, self-belief, and the power of turning pain into purpose. And for Zenil, it was the affirmation of a journey she had fought for every step of the way. After the ceremony, Zenil's parents approached her cautiously, faces flushed with a mix of pride and guilt. "We're so proud of you, Zenil," her mother said, her voice wavering. Her father nodded, trying to smile, though it looked forced. They spoke quickly, stumbling over words, as if trying to make up for years of neglect in a single moment. Nombula lingered behind them, unsure what to say, her earlier arrogance replaced with awkward silence. Zenil listened quietly, her expression calm. She didn't need to humiliate them or dwell on the pain they had caused, but she also wouldn't pretend the past didn't matter. When she spoke, her voice was steady, carrying the weight of every late night, every sacrifice, and every challenge she had overcome. "I don't hate you," she said, meeting their eyes. "I thank you, because your rejection pushed me to build my own empire." Her words landed like a quiet thunderclap. Her parents blinked, absorbing the truth in a way that no apology could erase. Nomvula, standing a step behind, looked small and defeated, realizing that the path she had relied on money and privilege to take had never been hers to claim. Zenil turned, her shoulders straight, her head high. She walked away through the crowd of journalists, dignitaries, and onlookers, each step a statement of her independence. She was no longer the ignored daughter of a family that had failed to see her worth. She was a woman who had shaped her own destiny, who had transformed pain into power, and who would continue to rise on her own terms. As the hall buzzed around her, Zenil felt a lightness she had never known. The past no longer bound her. She had created her future, and nothing, no neglect, no mockery, no obstacle, could take it away. Her story was over, and yet, in so many ways, it had only just begun.